Hey, I recognize those characters. They're from the other shows. Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Star Trek Prodigy, Season 1, Episode 6, Kobayashi. This video is part of a series of videos where I review episodes of Star Trek Prodigy. So I'll have to start with this spoiling warning up to Season 1, Episode 6 if you've not seen up to this point. You will not want to watch this video, otherwise some things will be spoiled for you. So, this latest episode of Prodigy felt more like an episode of Lower Decks to me. A little, because there was so much like Easter eggs, callback, nostalgia, almost in a Lower Decks-esque way. And Lower Decks is not always good with their callbacks. Sometimes they're just a little, oh, you remember that one? Which is what I felt this episode was like, basically. Well, particularly the holodeck stuff, obviously, is what I'm talking about. It was maybe too obvious, like, callbacks of, you know, oh, look at these characters. But anyway, I like this episode, though, and I'm liking this show. I think the show has a lot of potential still. And I do like how this episode develops the characters, and I'm starting to like this group dynamic they have going on with the characters. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump in the episode. It begins with the Doll's entire crew. I don't know who made him captain or why they're still... and why they're still entertaining his delusion that he's the captain. I mean, he's only the captain because they're allowing him to be the captain. I mean, they should just, like, stop doing that. But I guess they don't really have a better alternative for captain, because that big rock talk, she's too young and doesn't really know how to lead, and the engineer guy is just a moron. Basically, he doesn't really know, he wouldn't know how to lead either. And Zero is really smart, but Zero doesn't strike me as leader material either, and doesn't seem to have any interest in leading. And of course, Gwen they don't trust at all. You know, she was the bad guy. So I guess they should make Murph the captain. I would love to see that. So basically, Doll's the captain by default, as Homer Simpson would say, default. Anyway, so they come to him and you know, say, hey, let's go to the Federation, and he's like, no. And they're like, well, let's see, let's take a head count, let's take a vote. Who wants to go to the Federation? Everyone except for you. And he's just like, well, maybe Murph doesn't want to go. But anyway, I'm sort of skipping over the start where they revealed from the slipstream drive, or whatever the hell they call it, the quantum drive. What they say was like a black hole inside the ship. Anyway. I mean, yes, the Romulans used an artificial singularity for their engine core, but this is way more ridiculous and dumb. But anyway, let's move past that. So whatever drive thingy that they used at the end of the previous episode apparently took them, I believe they said 40,000 light years. And Janeway is like, oh, we started in the Delta Quadrant, but now we're 40,000 light years. Please don't tell me you left the Delta Quadrant, because that's the whole premise of the show. I was looking forward to them being in the fucking Delta Quadrant. Now they're not even going to be in the Delta Quadrant anymore. I don't know. Voyager made jumps that big, and it still took them forever to get home. They still acted like they were nowhere near Alpha Quadrant, and it still acted like they still met these aliens that should have been like tens of thousands of light years away from them at this time. But anyway. Anywho. Yeah, that's Voyager. But however, that's the one thing I didn't really like about this show, and something that I was looking forward to in the show. I wanted it to be all these Delta Quadrant, you know, Easter eggs, but they kind of established them as playing sort of fast and loose, with us not really caring, because there's all these Alpha Quadrant species were in this place that was supposed to be in the Delta Quadrant, and there was a crash Klingon ship in the Delta Quadrant, so I don't think the show cares. So I don't know, I may have to just get over that. But anyway, so, yeah, I know they came up with BS excuses. Jenkum Pod was in a generational ship, and they didn't explain why there was that cat, Catan, or whatever they're called, the cat species. They didn't explain why that was in a Delta Quadrant, but you could make up the BS excuse of the Klingon ship, like the ones from Voyager being generational, but to all that. Just stop having Alpha Quadrant species. But anyway, sorry, I'm getting distracted. So when they go to talk to Dahl, he's playing the game from the TNG, one of the worst TNG episodes ever made, the game, which was a ridiculous episode. But, you know, he was just playing as a normal game. I guess this is the non-brainwashing version of the game that looks really extremely boring. But I guess it's an analogy for all these mobile phone games that we have now, which are also pretty boring. But anyway, so he's messing around the game, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm doing something really important. And then he wants to find a Murph so he can have a Murph be on their side. And Murph is like chilling in the holodeck. And so they discover what a holodeck is, and Janeway introduces the concept of the holodeck and takes them to all the weird places. She even takes them to a Jane Eyre novel, which is reminiscent of the Hollow novels, the Victorian era British Hollow novels Janeway used to love in season 1 and 2. God damn, I hated those. I hated that whole storyline. But anyway, it was a cool callback nonetheless. But it eventually leads, and I love how Janeway kind of tricks him into taking the Kobayashi Maru. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think she knows that he needs to learn humility, and so that's exactly why she chose that one. He's like, oh, I'm going to ace this test. And it was pretty cool. I actually kind of like the storyline of him like being like, I'm going to win, and it actually has a character journey for him when he does realize at the end that it's a no-win scenario. And he's like, well, I nearly won. Well, at least he didn't cheat like Kirk. That would have pissed me off. That would have been repetitive. But the whole point of the test is to be a character building exercise, and it's actually nice to see that work for once, because of all the times we've seen the Kobayashi Maru, it hasn't actually worked in character building. Like Savick didn't really, she was just annoyed by it, and Kirk cheated. And by the way, like, I really wish Star Trek would stop making a big deal out of the Kobayashi Maru. Star Trek 2 was a great movie, but you don't have to reference everything in it to death. Just saying. Anyway, speaking of referencing things to death, let's talk about all the cameos we got. We got Spock, we got Odo, we got Uhura, we got Beverly Crusher, and then later Scotty pops up. So, all of these appearances, except for Dr. Crusher, were using stock audio from previous episodes. Now, I couldn't tell with Dr. Crusher. I actually had to look that up, but apparently they said they realized that they needed at least one of these characters to not be stock audio because they would need it to be more interactive. And so apparently they got Gates McFadden. I guess she was the only one who available or wanted to do it. But anyway, they got her to create original audio for the episode. But the other ones, they use stock audio. Now here's the thing, the Odo stuff I actually like. I love Odo. I'm sorry, it makes no sense to have a Bajoran officer in this scenario, but who cares? It's Odo. I love how Adal was calling him Jelly Man. How does he know he's a shapeshifter and he's jelly like? How's he seen this as a holographic version? But anyway, who cares? So that was cool. And I think I could recognize most of the audio selections they chose for Odo, and I think it was actually really clever. The ones, especially when Odo was like threatening, it was like, I'm not gonna let you do it. That was actually great. I actually loved that. But I think this, as for everyone else, they used too many original series references. Like, I don't think a horror was a good choice. Why not do some more DS9 TNG Voyager ones? Let's have Tom Paris. Let's have Harry Kim. Let's have Julian Bashir or Worf or Data. I don't know. I mean, you gotta have one TOS, sure, but not all of them. Like, practically most of them were TOS, especially when Scotty popped up. Because when I was like, hey, give me a good engineer, I was expecting to see Geordi LaForge, and I was really disappointed when Scotty popped up. I'm like, do we have enough TOS cameos already? Jesus Christ. But anyway, it's funny and interesting that Scotty was the movie era Scotty, whereas the other Uhura and Spock were the TOS era. But I think, why didn't they just get Gregory Peck to play Spock? I guess a lot of the hardcore Trekkies would have cried foul. But I actually would have preferred it because I think you can definitely tell it more with Spock because he talks the most. The audio quality is really out of place. And I was reading an article where they admit, yeah, sure, it's out of place, but it's a fun episode, so you won't even notice. Oh, I notice. And plus, his dialogue is a lot more recognizable, and I was like, yeah, I know exactly which episode this is from, what movie it's from, and plus they switch, like, the scene that annoyed the hell out of me the most was when they went to the Klingon ship and Spock was talking to Dal a lot, and they would switch between different like quotes from Spock. One he was from TNG, I recognize Unification, and then you go to Star Trek 6, and then you go to the original series again, and it just felt weird. It just was awful. I'm sorry, I didn't like it. They should have just got, and it just felt dumb. I was like, oh god, this contrast to the Odo ones, which I loved. These ones, I did not. I think they should have just got Gregory Peck to voice him. I'm just saying, I think that would have worked better. But, as I said, yeah, it reminded me, it was like, and plus during the TNG freaking bridge, the Enterprise D bridge, which was like, yeah, this really felt like a Lower Decks episode to me. Anyway, except Lower Decks actually is actively realizes that as being silly comedy, where this is going to be somewhat serious, so makes it worse, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, I also like the Gwen stuff in this episode. I thought it was really interesting. I like her sort of trying to find herself and how she's saying she's sad because she feels like she doesn't belong. And I love Zero. Zero's by far my favorite character of the show, and I loved Zero's interactions with Gwen in this episode, how Zero's actually trying to make her feel better and saying that Gwen does have worth. It was just so good. I find it a little bit touching, to be honest. And I don't care what anyone says. I do not care. I don't care what you say. I don't care what anyone says. I love Murph. I love Murph. She's so cute and so funny. Like, I like how he swallowed. What's he swallow? Like a quantum torpedo or something? It just went herb. Logic Smogic. That was cute. Anyway. And then of course deeping the mystery of what is the deal. What's the deal with the protostar? Like, what is why was Gwen's dad evil dude? Why was he so obsessed with it? And then Gwen finds a piece of her species language, and as far as you know, her and her dad's only members in existence, so what's the deal with that? This indicates a bigger mystery. And then of course they uncover a message of Chakotay apparently was the captain of the ship. Of course, I knew from news and all that all the gossip that Chakotay would be appearing this season, but it's good seeing him, and that was a good revelation, so it does make me interested to learn more, and I think this show could get even better. I think there's a lot of potential here, personally. Okay, so my rating for Kobayashi out of 10, a 7. I'm going to give this a 7. Very good. I almost said 6 because the Spock cameo kind of annoyed me, and all the other cameos were, even though I love the Odo cameo, it's just like, they're from the other shows! They're like being way too, oh, look at that, look. But I like the character stories in this. I love Zero, I love Murph, and even Doll's starting to get a little interesting, and Gwen doing some interesting things with them. And I like that the evil people didn't appear that much because I don't really like them. But anyway, that is it for my review of episode 6 of Star Trek Prodigy. I shall return next week, of course, to cover future episodes of Prodigy. So be sure to check out my channel as I cover many other Star Trek shows, as well as covering shows like The Expanse, Star Wars, The Clone Wars, and more. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. And thanks a lot for watching.